Caught my sister having an affair with my best friend's husband at a hotel. So I gave her 1 week to confess, or I would tell my friend myself. But what happened next destroyed multiple lives and left me depressed, seeking therapy. I, 31F, have a younger sister, Lisa, 28F, one of my closest friends. Rachel, 32F, is married to a guy, David 33M, who happens to be a mutual friend of ours as well. Rachel and I have been tight since college and I was even a bridesmaid in their wedding. They have 2 young kids, both under 5. I always thought Rachel and David had a great marriage. Unfortunately, I recently discovered something devastating. Lisa has been having an affair with David for the past 6 months. I found out completely by accident. A couple of weeks ago I was at a hotel in the city for a work-related meeting. In the lobby, I spotted 2 very familiar people tucked away in a quiet corner. At first I thought, nah, it can't be them. But as I looked closer, there was no mistaking it. They were holding hands and acting like a couple. I even saw them share a quick kiss before heading toward the elevators together. I felt like I was dreaming or seeing things. I discreetly took out my phone and snapped a couple of photos. I wasn't even thinking straight, I just knew I might need proof of what I was seeing because it was so surreal. I didn't confront them right there at the hotel. It was a public place and I was in shock. Instead, I left without attending my meeting. I made an excuse to my boss later about a personal emergency. I just couldn't focus. I drove around for a while to process what I saw. My mind was racing, my own sister and my friend's husband. I felt sick. I kept checking the photos on my phone just to confirm. I wasn't crazy. It was them clear as day. That evening I went over to Lisa's apartment. I needed to hear her explain this. As soon as she opened the door, I asked flat out, "Are you having an affair with David?" Lisa's face went pale and she burst into tears immediately. She didn't even try to deny it. She let me inside, closed the door and just started sobbing and apologizing. We talked more like argued for hours. Lisa admitted that she and David had been seeing each other in secret for about 6 months. It started innocently, according to her. They ran into each other at a bar one night and things just happened. She told me it was a mistake, that she never meant to fall for him. But she has fallen for him, or so she claims. I was furious and frankly disgusted. I asked her how she could do this to Rachel and to the kids. Lisa kept saying she knows it's wrong and that she feels guilty every day, but that it just happened and we didn't mean to hurt anyone. She said David had told her he was unhappy in his marriage and felt a connection with her and she fell for it. She looked miserable and regretful, but at the same time she didn't promise to immediately stop, which concerned me. I demanded to know if Rachel had any idea or any suspicions. Lisa swore Rachel had no clue. They had been extremely careful. They usually met at that hotel or other out-of-the-way places. David apparently had some work excuse for being out and Lisa would just lie about being with friends. It was all very secret. According to Lisa, David told her he still loves Rachel as a person but isn't in love with her and hasn't been for some time. I have no idea if that's true or just an affair partner justification. Lisa claimed David was considering ending his marriage eventually but was hesitant because of the kids. She insisted to me that she was planning to break it off with David soon because she couldn't handle the guilt of sneaking around. She kept saying, "I don't want to destroy their family. I know what we're doing is wrong. I was going to end it." I swear I told Lisa in no uncertain terms that what she was doing was beyond messed up. Rachel is not just any friend to me, she's one of my best friends, practically family. The fact that my own sister would betray her like this had me shaking with anger. Lisa kept begging me not to tell Rachel. She was literally on her knees at one point, crying and pleading. She argued that telling Rachel would destroy a happy family for no reason, especially if she and David were about to end the affair anyway. I honestly don't know if Lisa would truly end it on her own or if that was just something she's saying to get me off her back. I left Lisa's place that night extremely conflicted. I didn't agree to keep the secret forever. I just told her. I needed time to think. She was still sobbing when I left, saying she was sorry. Over and over in the days since I've acted normal around everyone, but it's killing me inside. I see Rachel or talk to her almost every day and it feels so wrong not to say anything. Rachel has been happily chattering about her upcoming anniversary. She's planning a surprise party for David for next month. She's even enlisted my help in planning some of it, completely unaware of how messed up the situation really is. It's heartbreaking. Just yesterday she was gushing about how excited she is to celebrate with him and how solid their marriage has been lately. Listening to that, I felt my face burn. I had to bite my tongue so hard. Rachel has no clue. Her husband is sneaking off with my sister. I haven't told a single soul about this. Besides confronting Lisa, not even my husband. I'm married and he and I are both close with Rachel and David as a couple. I wanted to keep it contained while I figured out what to do. My loyalty is split in a horrible way between my sister and my close friend. If I reveal the affair, I'm essentially nuking my relationship with Lisa. She'll probably never forgive me. It will likely also blow up David and Rachel's marriage, which maybe deserves to happen. But there are 2 young kids involved who I adore. If I stay silent, I'm protecting my sister for now and the kids' intact home, but I'm also actively deceiving my friend by omission. I feel complicit in the betrayal every time I see Rachel's trusting face. Lisa is now avoiding me unless absolutely necessary. When we have talked, she basically just repeats that I should mind my own business and let them handle it. She hasn't broken it off yet, as far as I know. When I asked if she's ended it with David, like she promised, she got defensive and said, "I will just give me time. You barging in will only make things worse." It's clear she's hoping I'll just stay quiet indefinitely. I don't know if I can. Every day that goes by, I feel worse about keeping this secret. Rachel is over here living in a fool's paradise, and it just seems cruel. At the same time, the idea of being the one to shatter her world is terrifying to me. I know she's going to be devastated and I hate that I'm in a position to deliver so much pain. So, Reddit, would I be the asshole if I exposed my sister's affair to save my friend's marriage, or in other words, Ida for telling Rachel that her husband is cheating with my own sister? I genuinely don't know what the right thing to do is here. I feel like either choice is going to destroy someone. Should I stay out of it because it's not my business, as Lisa says, or do I owe it to my friend to tell her the truth, even if it blows up my sister's life? I'm damned either way and losing sleep over this update one. I want to say thank you for all the responses on my original post. The majority of you made it clear that Rachel deserves to know the truth sooner rather than later. It was painful to read, but it solidified what I think I already knew deep down. So I took your advice. 2 days after my original post, I met with Lisa again. I told her in no uncertain terms that she is 1 week to come clean, meaning she needs to convince David to confess to Rachel within 7 days, or I will tell Rachel myself. I figured giving them a chance to do it on their own was as fair as I could be. That way, Rachel could hear it from her husband or even from my sister directly, if they chose, rather than from me. I honestly hoped David might have enough decency left to be honest with his wife. When confronted, Lisa did not take this well. When I delivered the ultimatum, she immediately started panicking. She got visibly shaken and said no, please. I need more time. I can't do that in just a week. She actually started crying again, saying that a week wasn't enough for them to get their affairs in order. Interesting choice of words. I remained firm. I told her I wasn't bargaining. 1 week was already generous, considering every extra day of lying is another day. Rachel is being deceived. She switched from panic to begging. She asked me to please reconsider and not interfere, trotting out the same arguments as before, that I'd be destroying multiple lives, that the kids would be traumatized, that Rachel would be heartbroken, etc. I told her bluntly, Rachel is already being hurt. She just doesn't know it. And every day you continue this affair you're making it worse. That's on you and David, not on me. Lisa just kept saying, it's not that simple. You don't understand. Finally, when begging didn't move me, Lisa got angry. She yelled at me that I was meddling in things that weren't my business. She actually said, this isn't your life or your marriage. Stay out of it. That made me pretty mad. I shot back that she dragged me into it by doing this with my friend's husband. I also reminded her that I gave her the chance to handle it privately, but if she and David weren't going to do the right thing, then I would. She called me a self-righteous bitch at that point. It was a very emotionally charged conversation, lots of yelling and crying from both of us. I told her this was her own mess and I had zero culpability for whatever fallout comes from the truth coming out. I also emphasized that the only people destroying a family here are her and David. She was hysterical by the end of the talk, but I held my ground and left her place. Since that confrontation Lisa has gone mostly quiet. She hasn't responded to my texts asking if she's spoken to David about my ultimatum. It's been a couple of days of radio silence. I suspect she's either in denial or she's hoping I'll chicken out. Possibly she's scrambling with David to figure out a game plan. I did send one message making it clear I meant what I said. 1 week she saw the message, read receipts, but no reply. I also wrestled with whether I should just tell Rachel immediately and not even give them the week. But after a lot of thought and reading your advice, I decided 1 week is the final bit of grace I'll allow. It gives David a chance to possibly do right by his wife. Not that confessing fixes the betrayal, but at least it's coming from him. If nothing happens by the end of the week, I will tell her myself. To be honest, these past few days have been hell. Every time I see or talk to Rachel, I'm hyper aware that this awful clock is ticking in my head. I haven't given any hints to her. Yet I'm trying to act normal until it's time to actually drop the bomb. But it's so damn hard to look her in the eyes and keep up conversation, knowing what I know. I also feel sick about the family aspect. I haven't told our parents anything. They have a good relationship with Rachel and David too. They think David is a great guy and that Lisa and Rachel are friends. This is going to be a nightmare when it eventually blows up. I know my parents will be disappointed in Lisa and possibly angry at me for telling, since it pits sister against sister. I'm not looking forward to that fallout either, but it can't be the reason I stay silent. So that's where things stand. I've essentially issued an ultimatum, 7 days. If by then Rachel hasn't heard the truth from either of them, I will tell her myself. I'm preparing myself mentally for that conversation and its aftermath. I have the evidence, the pictures I took, plus I wrote down everything Lisa confessed to me. I hope it won't come down to me breaking the news, but I'm fully ready to do it. Update 2, it hasn't been a full week yet, but something happened that pushed the timeline forward. I wasn't planning to post again so soon, but here we are. A couple of days after my ultimatum talk with Lisa, I was hanging out at Rachel's house. She had invited me over to help finalize some plans for the anniversary surprise she's throwing for David. We were going over catering ideas in her kitchen after the kids were in bed. That's when Rachel confided something that broke me on the inside. With a big smile on her face, she told me that she and David have been talking about trying for a third baby. I must have reacted visibly, because she asked me if I was okay. I tried to smile and play it off, something like, "Oh wow, that's big news." She went on happily chatting about how, after the anniversary, she's thinking of getting off birth control and letting nature take its course. She even joked that she might soon need me to be an auntie to another little one. I think I managed to nod and get through the conversation, but inside I was fuming. I am so angry at David and my sister at this point. Rachel is making life-changing decisions based on lies. The thought of her getting pregnant, bringing another child into the situation, while David is secretly betraying her. It's just horrifying. I barely held it together while she was showing me some cute nursery decor idea she'd saved on Pinterest. Yes, she's already thinking that far ahead, and no, David clearly hasn't discouraged these plans. That night I barely slept. I kept picturing Rachel a year from now, possibly pregnant, finding out her husband had been cheating on her all along. The idea of it made me feel physically ill. I realized I cannot in good conscience wait any longer. The ultimatum I gave, a week, was supposed to give them a chance, but knowing this new info, I decided I was done waiting out the clock. Lisa's silence over the last few days also told me that she and David were likely not going to do the right thing on their own. For all I know, they might even let Rachel go ahead and get pregnant and still not say a word. I can't let that happen. So I've made up my mind. I'm telling Rachel, and I'm telling her very soon, likely within the next 24 to 48 hours. I haven't informed Lisa or David of this decision. I don't plan to give any further heads up. They've had their chance. I doubt they're going to suddenly confess at the last minute, and I'm not interested in playing chicken with people's lives. I'm absolutely dreading the conversation I have to have with Rachel, but I know it has to be done. She needs to know what kind of man she's married to before she throws an anniversary party, before she tries for another baby. I've been rehearsing in my head how to tell her gently, but there's really no gentle way. It's going to shatter her. No matter what I've decided, the best approach is to do it at my place rather than hers. The kids will be around at her house, and I don't want them to potentially see their mom break down. I'm thinking of asking her to come over for coffee or something tomorrow morning while David is at work and her kids are at daycare/grandma's. That way it's just the two of us in a private setting, and she won't immediately have to face her husband or children. I will make sure she doesn't have to drive right after hearing the news. I can call her sister or someone to come be with her if needed. To be honest, I'm scared, but I know it's the right thing to do. I keep reminding myself of that. Better an ugly truth now than a worse truth later. Update 3, I told Rachel it was, as expected, one of the hardest, most heart-wrenching conversations I've ever had. I'm still processing everything, and I know she is too. But here's what happened. I invited Rachel over to my house yesterday. Under the pretense of having some leftover sample desserts from the anniversary planning. I had told her I got some cupcake samples from a bakery, a little white lie to get her to swing by without arousing suspicion. Late morning she came by. She was in a great mood, joking about how she was excited to try the cupcakes and finalize fun party details. We sat down in my living room and I gently steered the conversation away from the party. I said, "Hey, there's actually something important I need to talk to you about." I think my tone or expression must have alerted her, because she got serious pretty fast. She said, "Sure, what is it?" Or something along those lines. I remember my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I knew there was no way to cushion the blow, so I just came out with it. "Rachel, I found out that David has been having an affair." She looked at me as if I'd spoken to her in a foreign language, like she couldn't process the words. She sort of half smiled in disbelief and said, What do you mean?" I went on to explain as calmly and compassionately as I could that I had evidence and I didn't want to believe it myself at first, but it's true. I told her. I saw David and the other woman together with my own eyes. I was trying to avoid saying the name at first to let her absorb the idea of the cheating before adding the extra betrayal of who it was. But she kept asking, "With who? Who is he with?" Initially I said it's someone I know, someone we both know. That seemed to confuse and worry her even more. She looked almost panicked, rattling off who, tell me. Do I know her well? Finally I had to just say it, it's Lisa, my sister. As soon as I said that, Rachel's face changed in a way I will never forget. It was like every emotion hit her at once, shock, confusion, anger, disgust. She just said what, really loudly, and then went silent, eyes with tears. I quietly told her everything. I knew that I accidentally saw them at the hotel, that it had been going on for about 6 months, as far as I was told, and that I confronted Lisa about it. I even showed her one of the photos I took at the hotel. Rachel just stared at it, then covered her face with her hands and started sobbing. She didn't scream or yell. It was this gut-wrenching, quiet sobbing. That honestly made my heart feel like it was in a vice. I started crying too. I sat next to her and just kept saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Rachel." I must have said that a dozen times. I tried to hug her and for a second she let me, but then she pulled away and through her tears she asked, "Why? Why are you telling me this?" Not in an accusatory way, more like she was just bewildered and devastated. I told her, "Because you deserve to know the truth. You're my friend and I love you and you don't deserve what's been happening behind your back." I also explained that I gave them a chance to come clean and they didn't. She nodded, kind of dazed. For a few minutes we just sat there while she cried. I handed her tissues. She asked me if I was absolutely sure. I affirmed it and told her I wouldn't have said anything unless I was 100% sure. I mentioned I had more than just the photo, that Lisa herself admitted it to me. That seemed to really upset her more. The idea that my sister confessed means it's indisputable. She asked if anyone else knew. I said, as far as I'm aware, no one else in our circles knows. I didn't mention the internet strangers, of course. Eventually, Rachel composed herself just enough to speak in full sentences. The first thing she said was, "I need to go, I need to talk to him." I offered to drive her or go with her, but she refused and said she'd be okay to drive. In hindsight I probably should have insisted on driving her, but she was adamant and I also think she wanted to confront him alone. I was really worried about her, but I also understood that burning need. She had to get answers from David immediately. I made her promise to call me later and I asked if there was anyone else I should call for her, like her sister or another friend, to be with her. When she confronted him she said no, she wanted to do it one-on-one first, so I let her go watching to make sure she was okay enough. I did text her sister after she left, just saying Rachel might need her later. Without giving details, her sister knows something is up now, but that's fine. Anyway, later that evening I got a call from Rachel. She was sobbing again. She managed to tell me what went down. She waited at home for David to get back from work. When he walked in she immediately asked him if there was something he needed to tell her. She said he looked caught off guard and said something like, what do you mean?" And she just dropped it. "I know you're cheating on me. I know everything." According to Rachel, David just froze and didn't speak for a moment. Then he tried to do damage control, saying things like, "It's not what you think and I was going to tell you." I swear apparently that enraged Rachel and she really let him have it, yelled at him, cussed him out. She didn't even ask why. In that moment she just unleashed months of hurt that she was feeling all at once. She told him she'd been planning a surprise anniversary party and trying for another baby and how could he do this to her, etc. Eventually David admitted to everything. There was no point in denying it once he realized I had already told her and she had evidence. He confirmed the affair with Lisa, said it just happened and that he never meant to hurt her. He tried to say he still loves Rachel and he was confused and all the usual bullshit cheaters sputter. Rachel told me she actually laughed in his face when he said that she told him their marriage was over and to get the hell out of the house. This part stunned me a bit. David didn't fight. He didn't beg her for forgiveness, at least not in any meaningful way beyond a week, sorry. He didn't hesitate much. When she told him to leave, he went to pack a bag. Rachel thinks he already knew deep down this moment was coming once I knew about the affair. She suspects, and I do too, that Lisa had probably warned him. I found out and that I might tell, so maybe he was somewhat prepared for the eventual fallout. David packed a suitcase and left that very night and, yes, as I unfortunately expected, he went straight to Lisa's. I know this because after I hung up with Rachel I messaged my sister, simply asking if David was with her now. She replied with a single text, "Yes, thanks a lot." That's the only communication I've had with Lisa since the ultimatum argument. So yeah, David is now holed up at my sister's apartment, apparently. Back to Rachel. I drove over to her house after she called because I was really worried about her mental state. By the time I got there David was long gone. Rachel's kids were thankfully at her mom's for the night. I think Rachel had arranged that earlier, anticipating a blow-up when she confronted David. So it was just her at home. She looked wrecked, puffy eyes. I sat with her, made her drink some water, tried to comfort her as best I could. She was mostly quiet, in a state of shock. I think at one point she just said in a hollow voice, "What am I going to tell the kids?" That broke my heart. I didn't have a good answer. I said we'd figure it out and that I'd help her however I can. I eventually persuaded her to try to get some sleep. I stayed over on her couch. No way was I leaving her alone that night. I don't think either of us slept much, but at least we closed our eyes for a bit. So here we are this morning. Rachel is understandably depressed. She swings between crying, staring off into space and angrily ranting about David and, occasionally, Lisa. She hasn't mentioned being angry at me at all. Actually, she thanked me for telling her the truth. I cried at that too, because I was half expecting she might resent me a little, since knowing has caused her pain. But no, she's grateful in a tragic sort of way. That at least reassures me that I did the right thing by her. The road ahead is going to be hard for her. She's already talking about divorce. There's no coming back from this for her, especially since it wasn't a one-time thing but a full-blown, ongoing affair with someone she knows. I offered to help in any way, whether that's helping with the kids or driving her to see a lawyer or just being there to listen. She gave me a long hug. It was a very emotional morning. I haven't even begun to process my feelings about Lisa and David now openly being together. That's a whole other mess. My own sister is now officially the other woman turned maybe girlfriend. It makes me feel a bit ill. I'm furious at both of them. They caused all this pain and now they're shacked up together while Rachel is in agony and two little kids' lives are appended. It's so unjust. For now my priority is Rachel and the kids. I'll be helping her get the resources and support she needs. She already contacted a divorce attorney this afternoon just to start the process rolling. She's not wasting time. Update 4. It's been a few weeks since the big blow-up and things have been moving forward in a sort of grim, inevitable way. I wanted to share how everyone is holding up and what's been happening. Firstly, Rachel did file for divorce roughly a few days after finding out about the affair. There was no hesitation on her part. As soon as she gathered herself enough, she met with her lawyer and got the paperwork started. David was served with divorce papers promptly. He apparently didn't contest anything major. From what I understand, he's cooperating, likely out of guilt or maybe because he knows there's no point fighting. He's agreed to move the process along as cleanly as possible. They have worked out a temporary custody arrangement for the kids. Rachel has primary custody, which is what she wanted and what David, to his slight credit, didn't battle her on. Right now the kids are with Rachel most of the time and David gets them every other weekend and one midweek dinner, a fairly standard arrangement. The kids are very young and, mercifully, still too little to grasp the full situation. They just know mommy and daddy live in different houses. Now Rachel and David told them something like daddy is staying at Annie Lisa's for a while. Yes, they dropped that tidbit on the kids which made me cringe, but I suppose they figured the kids would find out when going to visit him anyway. Speaking of that, yes, David is still living at Lisa's apartment, so I guess you could say Lisa and David are an official couple now, if that wasn't already obvious. The level of disgust and awkwardness this creates is beyond measure. I've kept my distance from both of them, as has pretty much everyone else in our family/friend circle. The general sentiment toward them is that what they did is unforgivable. Even people who didn't know Rachel well, or appalled that Lisa would do this to a friend/her own sister and that David would betray his wife and kids. My parents found out about the affair and ensuing chaos. Pretty much right after it all went down, I sat them down and explained everything. I wanted them to hear it from me rather than through gossip. They were shocked and devastated. My mom cried. My dad was furious. They actually reached out to Rachel to offer support and apologies on behalf of our family. They told me they always considered Rachel like family and they feel sick about what Lisa did. As for their relationship with Lisa now, it's strained, to say the least. My parents told Lisa in no uncertain terms that she screwed up horribly. They're very upset with her. At the same time, Lisa is their daughter, so they haven't cut her off completely, but things are nowhere near okay. I know they had a few serious talks with her and apparently she was very defensive. She kept saying things like, "You don't understand, David and Rachel's marriage was already falling apart," which, from everything I've seen, is a flimsy excuse and likely untrue from Rachel's perspective. She also said she's in love with David and didn't intend for anyone to get hurt, which my mom flat out told her was BS. Given her actions. From what my parents relayed to me, Lisa is still with David, but not exactly happy with how the situation turned out. Well, what did she expect? My mom said Lisa actually complained to her. Everyone hates us. Now it's like we're the villains, to which my mom apparently replied, "Can you blame them? Look what you did." I've maintained very low contact with Lisa. Basically, we are not speaking unless we absolutely have to, which hasn't happened yet. She did send me one text after the dust settled, which read, "I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed our family. Don't ever talk to me again." That hurt. I won't lie. Being accused by my own sister of destroying our family is rich. Considering her choices, I didn't respond. I have no desire to get into a texting war with her. I figured there's no point in engaging until maybe years down the line, when emotions aren't so high, if ever. So yes, as of now I have effectively lost my sister. She has cut me off and I her in practice. That's a really sad thing to process. We were fairly close before all this, not best friends or anything but sisters who hung out on holidays, exchanged memes, grabbed brunch occasionally. Now that's seemingly gone on to Rachel. She is hanging in there. Some days are better than others for her. In the initial couple of weeks after the confrontation she was deeply depressed, barely getting out of bed, crying constantly. I was very worried. I and a few of her other close friends basically set up a schedule to make sure one of us was with her every day, helping with the kids and offering support. To Rachel's credit, she started therapy and is actively seeking help to cope with the emotional fallout. She has good support from her family too. I see her or talk to her pretty much every day. She tells me she has her moments of utter sadness, especially at night when the kids are asleep and she's alone with her thoughts. But she's trying to stay strong for her children. She did tell the kids in a very age-appropriate way that mommy and daddy won't be living together anymore and that it's not the kids' fault. The older one, 4 years old, has had some confusion in acting out, which is expected. The younger two is thankfully too young to really grasp it. It's heartbreaking to watch, but Rachel is doing her best to give them stability and love. I help with babysitting whenever I can and I've kind of stepped in as an Annie figure even more now to fill whatever small part of the void I can. One delicate thing. The kids do see Lisa when they go to David's for visitation, since he's living at her place. This was something Rachel was furious about initially. She didn't want the kids around the mistress at all. But legally she can't really prevent David from having his sister-in-law/girlfriend present during his parenting time, unless something egregious happened. David is their father and, as awful as this situation is, Lisa is their biological aunt and now essentially their dad's partner. It's a twisted dynamic that we're all just stomaching for now. Rachel vented to her lawyer but was advised not much can be done unless the kids are being harmed, which they're not. Aside from the confusion of it all, from what I've heard Lisa tries to play coolant when the kids are over. That makes me feel ill, but at least it sounds like she's not bad to them. Still, the nerve of that situation is outrageous. She helped break up their family and now she's hosting them at her place like it's normal. I can only imagine what goes through Rachel's mind thinking about that. Now, regarding Lisa and David's relationship I mentioned, my mom said Lisa isn't exactly happy. From a couple of tidbits I've gathered, mostly via my parents or mutual acquaintances, since I'm not talking to Lisa directly, things are tense between them, surprise. A relationship built on sneaking around and hurting others isn't all sunshine once it's out in the open. I heard that David has been having a rough time too. He misses his kids a lot and apparently he's been moody and guilt-ridden. Imagine that living with the person he blew up his life for isn't so romantic when he's dealing with divorce lawyers and a distraught ex and limited time with his children. There's gossip that Lisa and David have been arguing frequently. My mom even said that one time when she called Lisa, David and she were in the middle of a spat about something trivial. Who knows if it's the stress, the guilt, or them just realizing lust and love aren't the same. When reality hits, I'm not exactly rooting for their happiness. To be honest, if they stay together, that's its own karma, because they'll always have to live with what they did and the trust issues that come with it. And if they break up, well, poetic justice may be. I try not to dwell on that too much because it's not really my business anymore, except where it intersects with family. I haven't sought therapy for myself yet, but I'm considering it. I don't regret telling the truth. I want to make that clear. Despite all this sorrow, I would make the same choice again, because living a lie would have been worse in the long run. But I'd be lying if I said the outcome hasn't been weighing heavily on me. It has. Anyway, sorry if this update is a bit all over the place. There's just a lot that has happened and a lot of emotions involved. Update 5. I wish I were coming back with a happier update after all this time, but sadly I'm writing this with a very heavy heart. It's been roughly a year since my original post. The divorce between Rachel and David was finalized about 7 months ago. It went as expected. Rachel got primary custody officially, with David having visitation, assets were divided and they moved on legally. However, emotionally, Rachel struggled immensely in the aftermath, far more than any of us realized. 5 months after the divorce was finalized, Rachel took her own life. Even typing that out makes me feel like I can't breathe. It's a nightmare that still doesn't feel real. She was only 33. Those beautiful 2 little kids lost their mother and I lost a dear friend. To share what we know. Rachel had been battling depression ever since the affair came to light and her marriage fell apart. She put on a brave face for a while, especially for her kids, but she was in deep pain. She was in therapy and on medication and for a time it seemed like she might be slowly finding her footing. We, her family and friends, tried our best to support her. I truly believe that with time she would heal and maybe even find happiness again. I knew she was still in love with David in a complicated way and that heartbreak ran deep, but I did not see this coming. Maybe I was naive or maybe she hid the worst of her feelings from us. The way it happened is extremely hurtful. Rachel's sister told me the details. Rachel's kids were scheduled to be with David for the weekend. One Friday evening Rachel dropped the kids off at David's where, yes, Lisa was likely present too. According to David, she was polite but quiet during the handoff. Nothing seemed obviously off. She then went home to an empty house. That night she hanged herself in her bedroom. We suspect she planned it in advance, because she left a note taped on the outside of her front door for when the kids would come home. The note was essentially instructions. It said that if anyone found the note, they should not come in but call 911 and contact David to pick up the kids. If they were to find the note, it explicitly said to keep the children away from the scene. She also left sealed letters for each of her children and one for David. It was the neighbor who found the note the next morning on her door. This neighbor was a friend and knew about Rachel's depression. They used to check in on each other. The neighbor immediately called the police. Rachel's sister told me that the letter Rachel left for David basically said she was sorry but she couldn't live with the pain anymore and that she hoped he would be a better father to their kids than he was a husband to her. There was a line in there which brings me to tears, where she wrote to him, "I was so in love with you that I couldn't bear living without your love." She did also make it clear that the kids were the only thing keeping her going as long as they did, but in the end her despair overwhelmed her. I cannot even begin to describe the devastation this has caused. Her family is beyond shattered, the kids, God, the kids. The older one, now 5, understands mommy is gone, but not fully why. The younger one, 3, keeps asking when mommy is coming back, which absolutely breaks everyone's hearts. Right now David has the children full time. Rachel's parents are involved a lot, helping with their care. I suspect there might be a custody fight brewing there, since they are so angry at David. As for David and Lisa, I have not spoken a single word to either of them since long before this happened, but of course this tragedy affects them too, in the sense that any half-decent human being would feel enormous guilt. I don't have a direct line of insight into David's mind, but from what I've heard through others, he is deeply shaken and grief-stricken by Rachel's suicide. Some might say he doesn't have a right to mourn her after what he did, but human emotions are complicated. He lost the mother of his children, a woman he once presumably loved, and he knows that his actions contributed to her downward spiral. Apparently, he's not handling it well as expected. I've heard he blames himself. Frankly, a lot of people blame him and Lisa. Speaking of Lisa, my parents have been keeping me vaguely informed. She is reportedly a mess over this. I don't know if it's guilt, fear, sorrow, or all of the above, but my mother said that when Rachel's death was confirmed, Lisa was hysterical. According to my mom, Lisa tried to attend Rachel's funeral, but ultimately probably for the best, as I doubt Rachel's family would have wanted her there. David did attend, of course, and it was apparently very tense and emotionally charged. Rachel's brother almost punched him. I did go to the funeral. That was one of the hardest days of my life. Seeing two small children in front of a coffin is something I'll never be able to forget. Rachel's family was kind to me, though. In their grief they still thanked me for being honest with Rachel, saying she valued me as a friend. That made me break down, crying on the spot. It's all just so heavy. Now I'm here trying to make sense of everything. I'll be honest, I feel a crushing guilt in my heart. I cannot shake the feeling that if I had just kept my mouth shut, maybe Rachel would still be alive. David and Lisa might have quietly ended their affair, or not, who knows, and Rachel might have gone on unaware, maybe even having that third baby she wanted. Maybe the marriage would have eventually crumbled years later for other reasons, or maybe not at all. I find myself torturing myself with those what-ifs. What if my intervention did more harm than good? In this case, I wanted to protect my friend from lies, to give her the chance to not waste her life with a cheater, but what she got instead was unbearable heartbreak that she ultimately couldn't live with. It's a thought that's going to haunt me probably for the rest of my life. I am in therapy now because I recognize that these feelings of guilt and depression in me need to be addressed. I'm trying to remember that I acted out of love and honesty. Some days I manage to believe that, other days I just feel sick and responsible. There's a counseling fund set up for Rachel's kids, and I contribute to that. As for my relationship with Lisa, well, there is none. If there was any slim hope of reconciling in the future, it's gone. Now, in my darkest moments, I admit, I have felt a white-hot anger at her and David, blaming them fully. If they hadn't had an affair, none of this pain would have happened. It's true in a sense, but it doesn't ultimately matter. What's done is done, and now we all have to live with the aftermath. I'm going to try to find some way to make peace with it, if that's even possible, and I'll do my best to be there for those kids, in any capacity I'm allowed, because they're the ones who matter most now. And please, if you or anyone you know is struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts, seek help. I wish with all my heart that Rachel had found a way to hold on. I'm sorry this turned so dark.